ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 29, Explanation of Devotional Service. So, yesterday Kapila Muni explains how one needs to be free from envy, and one has to see the presence of the Supreme Lord in the heart of all living entities. Now we come to text 24. अहम उच्च अवचै द्रव्यै क्रियया उत्पन्नया नघे नैव तुष्यार्चिते अर्चयाम भूतग्राम avamaniनः. Translation.
My dear mother, even if he worships with proper rituals and paraphernalia, a person who is ignorant of my presence in all living entities never pleases me by the worship of my deities in the temple. Purport. There are 64 different prescriptions for worship of the deity in the temple. There are many items offered to the deity, some valuable and some less valuable. It is prescribed in Bhagavad Gita, if a devotee offers me a small flower, a leaf, some water, or a little fruit, I will accept it. The real purpose is to exhibit one's loving devotion to the Lord. The offerings themselves are secondary. If one has not developed loving devotion to the Lord and simply offers many kinds of foodstuff, fruits, and flowers without real devotion, the offering will not be accepted by the Lord. We cannot bribe the personality of Godhead. He is so great that our bribery has no value, nor has he any scarcity, since he is full in himself. What can we offer him? Everything is produced by him. We simply offer to show our love and gratitude to the Lord. This gratitude and love for God is exhibited by a pure devotee who knows that the Lord lives in every living entity. As such, temple worship necessarily includes distribution of prasad. It is not that one should create a temple in his private apartment or private room, offer something to the Lord, and then eat. Of course, that is better than simply cooking foodstuffs and eating without understanding one's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Supreme Lord. People who act in this manner are just like animals. But the devotees who wants to elevate himself to the higher level of understanding must know that the Lord is present in every living entity. And as stated in the previous verse, one should be compassionate to other living entities. A devotee should worship the Supreme Lord, be friendly to persons who are on the same level, and be compassionate to the ignorant. One should exhibit his compassion for ignorant living entities by distribution prasada. Distribution of prasada to the ignorant masses of people is essential for persons who make offerings to the personality of Godhead. Real love and devotion is accepted by the Lord. Many valuable foodstuffs may be presented to a person, but if the person is not hungry, all such offerings are useless for him. Similarly, we may offer many valuable items to the deity, but if we have no real sense of devotion and no sense of the Lord's presence everywhere, then we are lacking in devotional service. In such a state of ignorance, we cannot offer anything acceptable to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Now, next, Kapila Muni, he explains with the same theme, Anaghe, my dear mother, O sinless one, even if he worships the worshipper with proper ritual and paraphernalia, look at the word proper rituals and paraphernalia. So there is no mistake on the part of worship, but he is ignorant of the presence of the Lord in every living entity, never pleases me by worshipping the deity in the temple. So one is doing a very good deity worship in the temple, but one is disregarding the Paramātmā in the hearts of other living entity, then that deity worship is not very pleasing to the Supreme Lord. So here is how it is. Devotees, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Sarva Bhuta Hite Rata means he sees the Supreme Lord everywhere, and thus he is conscious of, aware of the presence of the Supreme Lord everywhere. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are 64 items of devotional service. Some are more important and some are more valuable and some are less valuable. Prabhupada doesn't say useless, very carefully, less valuable. And Bhagavad Gita clearly mentions what is to be offered to the Supreme Lord. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yume bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparitaham ashnami prayatatmanah. So along with the items, what can be offered, bhakti is mentioned 2 times. So the most important element is the real devotion to the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says, one cannot simply offer huge thing to the Lord and bribe him. We are too small to bribe the Supreme Lord. This was attempted previously. Duryodhana, when Lord came as Shantidut, on the day 1, Duryodhana was offering Chappan Bhog to the Lord. He said that I have cooked a huge feast and you will stay in the personal quarters of Dushasan and, we will have life together. And Lord, Kṛṣṇa, he just smiled at Duryodhana and he said that, my dear Duryodhana, people dine together because if they have appreciation with each other, if they have any affection, and if I want to have something from you, there is nothing of three. You also know that there is no affection. And thus he rejected Chappan Bhog of Duryodhan and went to Vidura, eating simply the Shaka Sabji at Vidura's house. Duryodhana also, after Rajsuya Yagya, Duryodhana said, I want to do something bigger than, Pandavas. And he did Vaishnava Yagya, which is considered to be even bigger than Rajsuya Yagya. But it was not at all pleasing to the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says we cannot bribe the Supreme Lord. Right. We have to simply offer our love and gratitude to the Supreme Lord, and any simple offering will also do. This gratitude and love is exhibited by the devotee and especially by distribution of prasadam. So temple means there has to be prasad distribution, Prabhupada writes. Prabhupada says that, personal temples are there in the houses. That is to make house into the temple. But when we go to the temple when the temple, then there has to be prasadam distribution. And prasadam distribution is a great act of compassion so that people will accept prasad, they will be purified, and in the process of purification will begin. And this is a great act of compassion to distribute prasad. Prabhupada says this is how a devotee has to elevate to the platform of Madhyama Adhikari. Prema Maitri Krupa Upeksha. Not that one simply goes to temple, worships something, or bows down to the Lord and just walks out. This is also good. But there is greater than this as well. And finally, Prabhupada says, real love and devotion is accepted by the Supreme Lord, but there has to be a real sense of devotion and real sense of Lord's presence everywhere. Okay, one has to. Otherwise, we are lacking in our devotional service. So, bhakti cannot be aikantiki harer bhakti utpatayaiva kalpate. Bhakti cannot be like me and my Lord, and there is nobody in between. This is not devotional service. This is simply some whimsical understanding, which will almost surely end in some disaster. Utpatayaiva kalpate. Text 25. Archadau archayet tavat Ishwaram mam swakarmakrit yavan naveda swadruti sarvabhuteshva avasthitam. Translation.
Translation: performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one realizes my presence in his own heart and in the hearts of other living entities as well. Purport: worship of the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is prescribed herewith, even for persons who are simply discharging their prescribed duties. There are prescribed duties for the different social classes of men: the Brahmanas, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Sudras, and for the different ashram: Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. One should worship the deity of the Lord until one appreciates the presence of the Lord in every living entity. In other words, one should not be satisfied simply by discharging his duties properly. He must realize his relationship and the relationship of all other living entities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he does not understand this, then even though he discharges his prescribed duties properly, it is to be understood that he is simply laboring without profit. The word swakarmakrit in this verse is very significant. Swakarmakrit is one who engages in discharging his prescribed duties. It is not that one who has become a devotee of the Lord or who engages in devotional service should give up his prescribed duties. No one should be lazy under the plea of devotional service. One has to execute devotional service according to his prescribed duties. Swakarmakrit means that one should discharge the duties prescribed for him without neglect. Hare Krishna.
Kapila Muni says, performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme until one realizes his presence in the heart of oneself and every living entity. Sthavara Jangama. Everywhere he is Ishtadeva Spurti, he is able to see his own worshipable deity, very advanced stage of a devotee. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that worshipping the deity is very important one for those who are discharging their varnashram. And who is under varnashram? Everybody. So 4 varnas, that, and 4 ashramas, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, and brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, all of them, they have their prescribed duties. Guna karma vibhagashaha, according to guna and karma. And one must worship the deity. So deity worship is very important aspect. And especially Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this, without deity worship, the religion will often become extremely materialistic religion. And this is the plight of the Abrahamic religions, because they have very less sense of a deity worship or absolutely no sense of deity worship. Without deity worship, the religion, or the can become very, very very, very materialistic in its pursuit and the orientation. So the deity worship has to be there. Swakarmakrit means one has to discharge one's devotional duty. Prabhupada says here, it is not that when one becomes a devotee, one becomes lazy in the name of devotional service. No, one has to work very hard. One can see, just like the ideal example is Arjuna, that extreme level of hard work. And we can see Srila Prabhupada himself. As a Grihastha, Srila Prabhupada was working so hard. Very hard working Grihastha Prabhupada was. He had all that desire. Prabhupada said that I had a desire that I will earn a lot of money and give it to my Guru Maharaj. And then, while doing so also, he was into preaching activities. There was one godbrother of Prabhupada who was a saffron devotee. And he was very reluctant to preach. Prabhupada used to tell him that, your saffron dress is so valuable. It attracts so many people. And then Prabhupada used to make this junior godbrother who was a brahmachari in saffron dress. He used to sit on Vyasasan and Prabhupada used to sit down, do kirtan and give class. Like that it was. So Prabhupada was extremely hardworking. And then we have seen that, one can see the devotees around us, very hardworking devotees. Not only in devotional service, but also in their otherwise prescribed duties as well. And one very powerful realization is, generally, what we do anything, how we do anything is how we do everything. Generally, okay. It is very rare to understand. It will come only at the pastime of Shada Goswamis in the later part, that somebody is very reluctant to do material duties very well and he is doing spiritual duties very well. This is Very, very, rare combo to happen. It will never happen generally. So if we are hardworking, that nature will reflect everywhere. It will reflect in one's swadharma also, swadharmakrit, and it will also reflect in devotional service. So relentless hard work, okay, pravaha, the relentless hard work is swadkarmakrit, is very important for a devotee. We have done these mistakes that, just doing the studies when exams were close and having very mature understanding of devotional service. But this is not to be done. So, one has to be in every role, one has to be working hard. And also, what is very important is success in one role will not compensate for failure in another role. Okay, what that means is success in one role. Prabhuji, I'm a very good father, but I am not a very good son. It will not be generally appreciated. Success in one role cannot compensate, right, for failure in another role. So one has to be balanced, taking care of all one's roles very well. One cannot say because Prabhuji, I'm so engrossed in devotional service, I go to Bhagavatam every day, and therefore I'm going to my office also every day very late. No, one has to adjust one's life accordingly. One should have realistic expectations during that particular phase of one's life. Right. So, like, simple example is whenever we are driving car or bike, it is not that because my bike has 5 gears, I will be always on fifth gear. No, not like that. Sometimes you have to stop, sometimes you have to take a reverse, sometimes you have to in first gear, then fifth gear, and so on and so forth. Similarly, swakarmakrit means when we are engaged in our devotional activity and our, especially grahasthas, as our prescribed duties, one has to put the gears accordingly. One cannot have a very, very rigid understanding of everything. Right. So, but this is very powerful. Success in one role cannot compensate for failure in another role. I'm very rich, but somebody's health is completely gone for a toss. No, this is not a good idea. Text 26. Atmanascha parasyapi yakkaroti antarodaram tasya bhinnadrik mrityuvid vidade bhaya ulbanam. Translation.
As a blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of differential outlook. Purport. There are bodily differentiations among all varieties of living entities, but a devotee should not distinguish between one living entity and another on such a basis. A devotee's outlook should be that both the soul and the supersoul are equally present in all varieties of living entities.
Yeah. So Bhinnadrik, as a blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes that discrimination, Bhinnadrik, amongst himself and other living entities because of differential outlook. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, bodily differentiations amongst all varieties of living entities will always exist. But devotee's outlook is that devotees he sees both Atma, there are two Atmas he sees, Paramātmā he will see, and the living entity Atma he will see, and the display of the material energy in terms of guna he will see, and therefore he will not be he will see the things on equal platform. So this equanimity is called as yoga. Bhagavad Gita beautifully says this, samatvam yoga muchyate. This equanimity is called as yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate, right? So a devotee is not somebody that, he will hate someone. This is very important. We may not go well with somebody. We may dislike somebody. There is always sajati, vijati, means, like-minded and like-minded. But we cannot hate somebody, some class, some people, some section of the society. No, because hatred has no place in devotional service. Text 27. Athamam sarvabhuteshu bhutatmanam krutalayam arhayed danamana abhyam maitrya abhinnena chakshusha. Translation.
Should I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah,
Therefore,
please.
through charitable gifts and attention, as well as through friendly behavior, and by viewing and to be unlike, one should propitiate me, who abide in all creatures as their very self. Purport. It should be misunderstood that because the Supersoul is dwelling within the heart of living entity, the individual soul has become equal to him. The equality of the Supersoul and individual soul is misconceived by the impersonalist. Here it is distinctly mentioned that the individual soul should be recognized in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The method of worshipping the individual soul is described here as either giving charitable gifts or behaving in a friendly manner, free from any separatist outlook. The impersonalists sometimes accept a poor individual's soul as being Daridra Narayan, meaning that Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has become poor. This is contradiction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in all opulences. He can agree to live with a poor soul or even with an animal, but this does not make him poor. There are two Sanskrit words used here, mana and dana. Mana indicates a superior, and dana indicates one who gives charitable gifts or is compassionate towards an inferior. We cannot treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an inferior who is dependent on our charitable gifts. When we give charity, it is to a person who is inferior in his material or economic condition. Charity is not given to the rich man. Similarly, it is explicitly stated that here that respect is offered to a superior, the charity is offered to an inferior. The living entities, according to different results or fruitive activities, may become rich or poor, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unchangeable. He is always full of six opulences. Treating a living entity equally does not mean treating him as one would treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Compassion and friendliness do not necessitate falsely elevating someone to the exalted position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should not at the same time misunderstand that the supersoul situated in the heart of an animal like a hog and the supersoul situated in the heart of an learned Brahmana are different. The supersoul in all living entities is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his omnipotency, he can live anywhere and he can create his Vaikuntha situation everywhere. That is his inconceivable potency. Therefore, when Narayan is living in the heart of a hog, he does not become a hog Narayan. He is always Narayan and is unaffected by the body of a hog.
Athamam sarva bhuteshu bhutatmanam krutalayam. So there are four things here being mentioned. Therefore, through the charitable gifts and attention, as well as through friendly behavior, and by viewing all to be alike, one should propitiate me who abides in all creature as their very self. So the Lord is self of the self. Like the body is activated by Atma, but the Atma is activated by Paramātmā. Therefore, is called as Atma of the Atma. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that equality doesn't mean that one can equate living entity with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, they are not equal. So sometimes when people have this idea that that Manava Seva is equal to Madhava Seva, people will say. And people will say there is Janta Janardhan. These are some of the common words. These are used. Janta Janardhan ka Ashirvad hai. And then Daridra Narayan. The Daridra Narayan ki seva karo. Prabhupada says that how can Narayan become Daridra? Narayan is the Lakshmipati. Sahastra Koti. Right? Lakshmi Sahastra Shata Sambrama Sevyamanam. So how he will become Daridra? Of course, he will agree to reside with Daridra. He will agree to reside with poor or animal, even a hog or a dog. But that doesn't mean Narayan becomes Daridra, Narayan becomes a dog Narayan or a hog Narayan. No. People have, tremendous misunderstanding about this. People try to become friendly So although on one hand they are becoming friendly, on another hand, they are very severely insulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So next is Mana and Dana. Prabhupada says Mana is given to the superiors and Dana is given to those who are inferiors. So when we are coming across somebody who is superior, we give them Mana. We are coming across somebody who is in need of help or something, we give them Dana. But Lord is beyond Mana and Dana. Whenever we are giving something to the Lord, it is not that we are obliging the Supreme Lord or the Lord has become inferior and therefore he is accepting charity from us. It is in the favor of the living entity that the service of the living entity is very kindly accepted by the Supreme Lord. And therefore, when there is dana, Bhagavad Gita explains there are various ways of doing dana, the modes of nature in which dana is being done. And this is also called as a very rajasic and tamasic dan, as if to give, I am doing favor on the Supreme Lord. So this has to be avoided. And finally, Prabhupada concludes that Narayana is always Narayana. And one should not mistake Narayana with all one's very, very naive and stupid understanding. Sometimes people say Bala Narayan, they will see their child, Narayan, they're a child. And then, it just messes up so much around it. So one has to be very careful that while, of course, you appreciate everyone, there is no doubt. You be kind to Daridra, you be kind to animals. But while doing so, don't offend the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Correct. So Prabhupada says that one should be very careful. Narayana is always Narayana, is unaffected by the bodies in which he is entering. The Jiva is affected by the bodies. Right. When Jiva, living entity, enters the body of a hog, he behaves like a hog. He enters the body of a bird, he will start flying. But when Narayana is there in all the bodies, and this is a pure, unlimited Bhuri Karunaya, compassion, and this compassion should not be misunderstood. This is very, very important. So, whenever we speak about the Supreme Lord, it has to be in sync with Parampara, approved by the Shastra. Otherwise, it becomes an offense. However good meaning we may be, it becomes an offense. Correct. So just like, imagine that you are introducing President of India and, or Prime Minister of India. And very lovingly you are introducing him, ये भारत के सेवक है and ये चपरासी है. So you are minimizing the position, and minimizing the position means actually it is an offense to minimize somebody's position. And this offense should not be specially done towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thinking that Lord is also undergoing his own tribulations. Lord, we have discussed this previously. People have this one idea. कर्म कोणाला चुकलाय का? रामालाही वनात जावं लागलं. No, Lord Ram going to Vanavas is pure pastime. It is not some karma. What to speak of Ram, even Pandavas going to Vanavas is also pure pastime. So one should be very careful when one is talking about the Supreme Lord and especially the pure devotees of the Lord. Right. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. I just wanted a small feedback. Because the nature of the discussion is such that, and Prabhupada's purport are also in such that I hope the classes are not becoming too preachy kind of a thing, right?
No, Prabhuji.
Nice, Prabhu.
It's
Because,
nice.
Not at all.
we just not miss out anything that Prabhupada says. And please forgive me if I'm speaking beyond my age, beyond my realization. But this is what Srila Prabhupada says. Okay. So, and whatever mood of Srila Prabhupada is, we are just following the same mood. We have no other agenda except the agenda that is set by Srila Prabhupada in given purport. But sometimes it may become slightly more preachy. Of course, Prabhupada writing is according to his adhikar and everything is right. But sometimes when, I discuss on this, or when we discuss, so it should not sound like a preachy. But why Srila Prabhupada writes it again and again is these things are important, and something which is important has to be reminded again and again. And whatever Srila Prabhupada writes, we are going to discuss everything without, missing out any punchline of Srila Prabhupada. So we'll conclude here. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Prabhupada, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.